Hello, I'm Rupert Turton, and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview, where we talk to local business owners about their journey. This time I'm joined by Steve Pinnock, who's the Managing Director at Performance and Event Management, who specialise in business-to-business services to enhance the performance of employees and their business channels. So, Steve, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
So I guess the first question has to be, what exactly do Performance and Event Management Limited do?
We run corporate events of many different types. So in sales incentive programs, product launches, awards dinners, team building, all that sort of thing for a variety of different customers in different industries. Although, to be fair, somehow or other we managed to do an awful lot of work in the automotive industry, but it wasn't by design, it happened.
Yeah, I suppose where you built your reputation.
Absolutely.
What's a typical event for you?
Well, to be fair, there aren't really any typical events because everyone is different. Everyone has different requirements and different objectives that they're looking to achieve. And we all of our events are bespoke according to what the client is actually looking for and needing out of the event.
Yeah. So what's the biggest challenge in running an events business? I mean, you've been doing this a long time as well, so I'm guessing things have changed over the time you've been doing it.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, you would be doing 7-night programs for 500 people or 600 people. That they just don't exist, or very rarely exist anymore. The vast majority of people are looking not to be out of the office, having their staff out of the office for too long at a time. So not it's 1, 2 or 3 night programs, and on average, from our perspective, I can't speak for other companies, it tends to vary roughly between 30 and 80 people.
Yeah,
we're actually working on something with over a 10-day period, sort of about 1,100 people in it over the next couple of weeks. So that is an exception.
Yeah. So what are the challenges then in the industry?
Well, that's a good question. Biggest challenge, as always, is the fact that there are a lot of other people doing what we do. And it's a case of it's a majority of our business is through word of mouth. We don't advertise. It's done through word of mouth. We've tried the generation through cold calling and whatever, and to be fair, it's a bit of a waste of time and money. So we're trying to be visible on social media. It's almost like sound bites to try and raise the profile of the business, and the whole industry has changed dramatically since, in 1992 or 3 or whatever, we started using email. Prior to that, it was all phone calls and faxes and post. I very rarely remember. I can't remember the last time I posted a letter. So things have changed dramatically in that time, and you've got to continue. That's probably the biggest thing, is to continue to keep up with changes in the industry and the demands of the customers.
Yeah. So what's your biggest learning then since you've been a business owner?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I've got a policy of trying to keep things tight financially. If I hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't have survived through 18 months of no business with COVID. And as a result of that, we're still here, still trading, still working with the same customers that we were working with before. So it is difficult to survive these things. I mean, in the past we've been through the Gulf Wars and various other issues. When 1991, I think it was, when everybody stopped travelling because of the first Gulf War, and then you had people who were owned by Americans, and they wanted to go to Paris, but they actually had to travel to Geneva on a neutral airline and then go back by train. Rather than, these are the sort of crazy things that you've dealt with over the years. And it is a case of not knowing. You never know what's going to come up on any given event that you have to deal with. Including illnesses on site, where people are taken ill, and you've got to deal with that, and your staff, you've got a ratio of staff to guests, and you only need a couple of incidents, and you've got your staff off at a hospital or somewhere else sorting out issues. They're not there to help run the event, so it's a balancing act.
So, what's your aspirations for the company in the next 5 years? Looking forward, where do you see the business going in the next 5 years? Where do you see the industry going as well, actually?
Well, the industry, there's the buzzword of the moment in the industry is sustainability. It's looking at sustainability wherever possible. I'm a bit, to a certain extent, a little bit cynical about it, not because I don't agree with it, because I do, but it tends to be, if it's going to cost more money to do that, more often than not, clients will go for the cheaper option than they will for the sustainable option. Eventually, I should imagine it will become the norm, as an accepted norm, but as time, but that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So, sustainability is I say, is every time you read a trade mag or whatever, there's always some kind of discussion about sustainability going on. So
So, where do you see the company going in the next 5 years? Then, if the industry's be going more towards sustainability, how does that impact your business?
Well, it's just a case you have to adapt to it and establish different methods of working in order to achieve the sustainability, the sustainable goals that sometimes clients will be setting that and driving that. Other times we're driving it, trying to use it as a hook on selling it to customers. So it could be either way. But I mean, from the industry, it will change, and it will continue to change constantly as business changes. So it's a case of adapting to whatever the needs are of individual customers. A number of years ago, you'd speak to someone in a business, and it would be, you'd talk to them, they'd say yes, okay, fine, they've got sign off from the boss, and off you go. You're running your event. These days, you've got compliance and purchasing and all manner of different things like that you have to cover off those issues that they're looking at. Before you actually win the business in the first place. So.
Which actually begs another question: is your business very systemized in the way you operate, in that you pretty much have a checklist you have to run through for every event, or do you find you have to adapt to every different client and every different event?
It's a bit of both, actually, funnily enough. There is when it depends on the type of event it is, really. If it's a sales incentive program, then we actually have a formula of how a program should run. And that is determined by, if you're flying overseas, for example, if you've got a late flight out, an early flight home, then that will determine what you can or can't include on given days. But if it's a conference, then again, you've got lots of issues there. I mean, I'm working on something at the moment for Geneva, and it's a pan-European event. So it's how these people, you don't know yet, because we haven't got an invitation for it, it's not even confirmed yet, but we're working. We don't know how these people are going to arrive. If they're in Europe, will they drive? Will they come by train? Will they fly? We don't know that as yet. And how you budget that is a real challenge.
Yeah.
You've got a budget for people arriving in different methods and then transferring from an airport or a railway station or whatever. So that everything, because each individual program, as I said, is a bespoke program, you've got a core that you work with of information, lists or whatever that you work with. And then you have to then adapt around that for whatever the other requirements are that the client requires.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So flexibility sounds like it's a large part of the game.
Very much a large part of the game. You have to. I mean, you can use the same certain things over and over again, but generally speaking, you've got to. A lot also depends on the profile of the audience as well. Now, you've got a lot of sales guys who are 25 to 35. What you're going to do with them on a program is completely different to someone to a program where you've got couples, say, and its average age is 25 to 65.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at you have to look at exactly what it is that the profile of these people is. It, are you going to maybe if you've got an older group, maybe they couldn't do a walking tour of somewhere where it's going to take, they're going to be walking 5 miles in a day, whereas the youngsters would, or ride a bike through Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
You've got to look at how that's all going to work on every single piece of business you work on.
Yeah, actually, and both sound like quite interesting things to do as well.
Yeah, well, I've done both. I've done an event in Beijing where people did ride a bike through Tiananmen Square and then ended up at one of the high spots of the city.
Brilliant, cool. So, what would you say to anyone thinking of going into business at the moment?
Do your sums very, very carefully and do lots of research to make sure that know if you're going to start a business, know where your business is going to come from. Don't expect that it's just going to come because you think you've got a great idea. That's not going to happen. You might be lucky to pick up a couple of things because you know some people, but other than that, if you're looking for a long-term commitment with a business or a long, your business to last some good time, then you really need to plan very carefully about that. It's one of the problems I see is people just do seriously expect business to almost fall in their lap because they come up with an idea, and it just simply doesn't happen. You've got to be there. You've got to create an awareness. You've got to understand. People have got to have faith in you. People then look at a new business and say, okay, well, they've only been trading 6 months or a year or whatever. Well, you're not going to give business to them because we don't know anything enough about them as yet. They haven't got a history. I've been in the business. It's my 49th year in the travel industry. This business has been going since 2005, which is I started the business in 2005. So we've got a history, a pedigree, shall we say, that and people will recommend us one to another when you've got pals in other businesses and so on. And that's how some of the business comes in. So we picked up a Chinese client, believe it or not. We've actually got a client in China. Does have has a big office in Rotterdam. Done quite a bit of work for them over the last 7 or 8 years. But it was a recommendation from somebody that knew somebody. It wasn't. We didn't go out there saying, "Hello, Mr. Chinese company, can we do some business with you?" And they're a huge organisation, and
of course, it takes a long time to build up that referral network around your business. That doesn't happen overnight, does it?
Exactly. I mean, nothing. Unfortunately, not a lot does happen overnight. It is a case of it's a slow burn. Quite often.
Yeah, and I think the other point you made very succinctly, obviously check your numbers, but the key thing is if you're going to run your own business, you are by default going to have to be the salesman for that business as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I do. I'm the front man for the business. So, I mean, I've got one particular client that we've got. I'm not sure exact number of years we've been working with them, but it's somewhere in the region of about 25, 26 years. And
Mm.
we've done hundreds of events for them over that period.
Yeah.
And that was in previous employments before I started this business as well. So the
Yeah.
business has stayed with me through this whole period.
Excellent. Slight change of tack then, Steve. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you think about success?
You may or may not have ever heard of him, but the person that I worked for a company called Page & Moy Marketing, which became PNMM back in the 90s. And the guy that I worked for was Tony Moy of Page & Moy. And he was an exceptionally clever guy. I learned a lot from him. And he was he started his business in the early 60s. He was Page & Moy that do the Formula One trips to go to the Formula One races and whatever, and so on. And he did a huge amount in our part of he was one of the pioneers of this industry. In the early 60s, it didn't really exist. So he was one of the, and for me, I thought he was incredibly successful. He built the business up and sold it about 3 or 4 times and bought it back again at the bottom of the market and then sold it on again at the top of the market. He did it several times. So he's a canny guy. I would call that successful.
Yeah. So what were the traits that made him successful then?
Well, his quote that he always used was, "Look after your people and they will look after your clients."
I like that a lot.
That was his go-to phrase. And if the staff aren't happy, they're not going to be working for them for long. And to be fair, whilst he was the owner, I mean, unfortunately, passed now. When he was the owner of the business, there was very little turnover of staff. Until it then got sold, management buyout when he retired. But it was just very few people left because they were happy with the way the business was being run, and it was an exciting business to be in.
Yeah, and I suppose actually part of that must also be his ability to hire the right people for the sort of business that he had as well. So it's people with the right attitude as well as the right cultural fit.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a employ for attitude, trained for skill person myself.
Oh yes, I'd agree with that. Yep.
So if they've got the right attitude, then you're halfway there.
Yeah.
And if they're genuinely interested, they will move quite fast through the business as a result. So
yeah. Cool. Steve, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you for your time. Before we wrap up, if somebody wants to talk to you at Performance and Events Management Limited, how do they contact you?
By my mobile. So I tell you, So I tell you what it is.
I'll put it in the notes that go out with this as well.
07734 530 811.
Marvelous. I'll get that added to the comments as well, so everyone knows how to contact you. Cool. Steve, been lovely talking to you. Thanks for your time today. Really interesting, actually. Somebody who's been around as long as you, I say that in a positive way, is always going to have a whole bunch of learnings that are going to be interesting to particularly people in newer businesses as well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Nice to talk to you. Cheers.